When Renault joined Formula 1 in 2016, having bought out the bankrupt Enstone-based Lotus team, they vowed that they would be fighting for the World Championship title come 2020. 2020 came, 3 podiums came, and they finished above Ferrari in the standings, but that was about as good as it got for them. Ferrari weren't fighting for the title, and nor were they. So, at the end of 2020, we said goodbye to the banana car of Renault and hello to the icy blue Alpine team. So why did Renault give up on Formula 1? Well, it's quite complicated, so I'll try and simplify it before we move on to their 2021 performance. Alpine is an independent sports car company who were bought by Renault in the 1990s and have since then evolved into Renault Sport before revolving back as Alpine. As Formula 1 teams look to integrate technologies used in the sport into their road cars, I'm sure during qualifying ad breaks in the UK we've all seen that tedious Petronas advert saying, if it's tested in F1, I'm sure it's safe for me. A restructured Renault saw this as an opportunity to promote their own sports cars, hence why it was out with the banana livery and in with the icy blue. So, now let's cut to the important bit. Alpine's 2021 performance. About what we expected? Alpine kept on Esteban Ocon from 2020 and brought in young and unproven rookie Fernando Alonso to join him on the grid. Sorry? You're telling me this man is actually a seasoned veteran and 2-time world champion back from a 2-season sabbatical? Oh, seems good enough to me. I just saw him at the Young Drivers Test post Abu Dhabi 2020 and thought he was some up-and-coming superstar. Right, that's enough of that joke. They've got a good driver lineup. They probably had the second coolest car launch as well, right behind Aston Martin. It's quite fitting considering the livery is absolutely fire. Let's get into the season. Bahrain didn't go fantastically. Esteban was knocked out in Q1 and then became a bumper car for Sebastian Vettel. And despite a respectable qualifying performance at P9 from Fernando, he fought a losing battle in the race with a sandwich wrapper in the brake duct, causing him to retire on lap 32. Not an ideal start from Alpine, but we'll move on. The team then scored back-to-back points finishes at Imola and Portimao, with Esteban's high qualifying in Portugal being a real highlight. However, then the season began to follow a familiar trend all the way to Silverstone, which has plagued the team's overall performance. One driver would compete well at a race weekend, whereas the other one would seem to forget how to use the steering wheel. For instance, in Spain and Monaco, Esteban Ocon scored points in both of those rounds, whilst Fernando seemed to be off the pace all weekend long. Esteban qualified an impressive P5 in Spain too, one better than his 6th place in Portugal. Then, Esteban would go pointless until Silverstone, but Fernando would put in some good performances, beginning a run of 6 consecutive points finishes from Azerbaijan to Hungary. This was a weird situation. You'd thought the car might suit one track over another, but instead it was the drivers who were struggling with their consistency, not the car. Silverstone was a good weekend for the team, with Fernando's sprint race start being like absolute lightning, and he eventually ended up 7th in the Grand Prix, with Esteban coming home a decent 9th place to bring home some valuable points. So now we get to Hungary, and we all know what happened there. Valtteri Bottas thundered his Mercedes like a bowling ball into Lando and the 2 Red Bulls, and Lance Stroll did the exact same thing but worse. It's kind of mad how that went under the radar. His was far worse than Bottas's. But then, more importantly for Alpine, the track opened up for Esteban literally like the parting of the Red Sea as he steamed into 2nd place. He then made his bold strategy call to switch to slicks on the formation lap, and he was followed in by the entire field. He was then overtaken by George Russell in the worst bit of driving and communication I've ever seen. He then subsequently got that place back, and when Lewis had to pit, he inherited the lead. Long story short, he led the rest of the 65 laps to take his maiden Grand Prix win, leading home Sebastian Vettel by 1.1 seconds, and Lewis Hamilton just 8 tenths behind that too. How did he win that race? Well, a slow pit stop for Seb stopped him being undercut, and Fernando drove like a madman to stop Lewis getting past. It was so good to see 2 of the greatest drivers of our generation going head to head in a war of wills, skill and technical ability. Eventually, Lewis bullied Fernando into a mistake, but Fernando had held him up sufficiently to protect Esteban. Another 2 laps and Lewis would have gone on to win that race, but Ocon held his nerve to take home the points. Since then, Alpine have scored points in every single race up until the USA with the double DNF, but then again that's some decent returns. To make a judgment, I want to ask 3 questions when discussing Alpine's performance. Firstly, just where does their car fit in terms of pace? I would say that they had the 6th quickest car, right between AlphaTauri and Aston Martin, yet I do expect them to finish 5th place in the championship as their driver lineup is superior to that of the Faenza-based team. Secondly, I want to assess where they are for 2022. Do I think they'll be title challengers next season with all the regulation changes? I actually don't think they will be. I think it'll be more of the same from Alpine. I personally expect a rebirth of the Mercedes and Ferrari battles of 2017 and 18, and then a closely compact midfield including McLaren and Red Bull, all the way down to Williams, with Alpine somewhere in between. And finally, this is the big question: has Hungary overshadowed what is to be a disappointing season? Well, yes and no. It has certainly helped them big time in their battle with AlphaTauri, because without that excessive haul of points, they'd be behind them. It's the same thing as Sebastian Vettel's disqualification, meaning the gap to Aston Martin behind is quite a lot bigger. But at the same time, no, I don't think it has. No one expected Alpine to be world beaters this season, and for most teams, this season was more about consolidation and preparation for 2022 than making giant leaps in 2021. Hungary gave Alpine hope that anything is possible, and that they have a dream that they can work towards, and that they could potentially find themselves at the sharp end of the grid come 2022, which would be a huge result considering their strong driver lineup. However, that is all for this video, and if you did enjoy this video, make sure to leave a like and let me know your thoughts about Alpine in the comment section below. Subscribe if you want to see Formula 1 content, and I will catch you in the next one. Later, guys.